Welcome to tonight's program. We have familiar faces and not so familiar faces. We have David Senjum, who is formerly of the Minnesota Senate and who is now an Olmsted County Commissioner. We have Elmar Birking, who is from Germany. And we have Sabina, who is from the University of Minnesota, and Sabina Engel. And she has been a guest for a couple of years. And Christoph Wetter, Dr. Wetter, it's nice to have you back.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Did we see you smile? And we're going to talk about energy, and we're going to talk about the university. And Sabina, let's start with you, since you're a Minnesota faculty member. And why don't you introduce yourself to the viewers?
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us. My name is Sabina Engel. I work at the University of Minnesota Institute on the Environment, and it is a super exciting time when it comes to thinking about energy, renewable energy, and what we can do in Minnesota to decarbonize the economy and build a new economy. So we're very excited to have the opportunity to work with partners in Germany. And the two guests that are on tonight's program are two professors who have been working with us at the Institute on the Environment on being very local about the energy transformation and the energy transition. So we host their students who serve as interns with cities across Minnesota. They've hosted, we've had some of their students be interns with the city of Rochester. We have one with Olmsted County right now. We have had interns with the city of St. Cloud and with our campus at the University of Minnesota Morris to work on renewable hydrogen. So very exciting times, very exciting moment, and it's all about working together, collaborating, sharing expertise.
Okay, and Christoph Wetter, Dr. Wetter, but we'll call you Christoph.
Please do that.
Okay, and do you want to tell us what you do in Germany?
Absolutely. First, I would like to say that I'm very grateful to be back here. Thank you again for the invitation. And I'm a professor at the University of Applied Sciences in Münster. And we are dealing with environmental sciences and renewable energy, also with the renewable hydrogen. That's the area where we are working in. And our university is partnered with the University of Minnesota within this program, Climate Smart Municipalities. This already since 2017, so that means we are working close together for many years, and it's a lot of fun and there's a lot of outcome.
And we'll have you next year for the program and maybe the year after?
That is true. And
okay.
I'm very happy to be here with my colleague Elmar, who will be my successor, or who is already my successor.
Good. Why don't you introduce your successor?
Yeah, my name is Elmar Brügging. I'm a professor at the University of Applied Science in Münster too. And Christoph and I were working together for over 20 years now. And we have a big research team that is working on the energy transition.
Okay. And energy means many, many things in America. And in Germany, it's hydrogen. And hydrogen has a history in the world of explosions. And there's always worry about using hydrogen for energy. And let's talk about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good idea to talk about hydrogen. Because at the moment, most of the people think that hydrogen could be the solution for the energy needs. And the question is if that is true or not, or how much is true on that. And we think that the hydrogen technology could be one part of the solution, but not the solution itself.
Okay, that's more caution than you used last year. Is there any reason for that?
Yes, because when we speak about energy needs, there are several steps which we have to take until we come to the production and use of hydrogen. The first one would be to reduce the needs of energy. The second one would be to higher up the efficiency of the energy which we are using. The third one is then to produce the energy which we need on a renewable way. Let's speak about wind turbines, about photovoltaics, about the use of biomass. And then we should live with that energy at the time when we are producing the energy. That means we have a lot of photovoltaics during the daytime and in the summertime. We have a lot of energy from wind turbines in spring and fall. And that means if we could use the energy at that very time when it is produced, that it would make a lot of sense. For example, we could shift the need to the time when we have the energy. For example, if we have a dewatering of sludge at a wastewater treatment plant, that we need 3-4 hours, that could be at any time, so we would do that at the time when the energy is available. And then we have to shift the energy to the times when we have the energy, or we can store it, or we can transform it. For example, if we have electricity and we know that we need heat, then we could shift the energy from the sector of electricity to the sector of heat. For example, by the use of heating pumps. And then we can store the heat until we need it, because we know it will be cold and we need heat. And if all this is done, then we will have the need of storage. And this storage could be done, for example, by biogas plants. In Germany, we do have 10,000 biogas plants, and we could use these biogas plants as a storage for energy, because it would only cost 1/40 of the price of batteries, for example. And then, if we have still a surplus of energy at several times, then we should produce hydrogen at a very cheap price, because then we do not need that energy for any purpose, but we could produce hydrogen out of water, splitting H2O into H2 and O2. So we have the hydrogen and the oxygen, and then we can use the hydrogen directly, or we could transform it into ammonia for fertilizer purposes or for transportation. And then it makes a lot of sense to step into this hydrogen world, because we have a cheap energy which is storable and which we could use for a lot of purposes.
And why is there a surplus at different times of the year?
Yeah, because we have a lot of renewable energy. There was step 3 in the whole program. That means at any times we have a surplus, because we do not need the energy at that very moment when it is produced. And then we have to shift it around, to transform it, and to make use out of it.
Okay, now your colleague here, your successor, do you have something to add to that?
Not really, but it's more the view on the technologies that we have. It's more like a puzzle. You need all of these technologies to build a new energy system. And that's the way we are thinking, and that's the way we are trying to do that in Germany. And I'm excited because we talked in the last few days with so much people about that, and we're exchanging the ideas of the energy transition. the way the Minnesota sees the energy transition, and that we see the energy transition in Germany, and it's very similar in the main points, and some different views in the technologies, but it's very interesting to talk to everybody here.
Okay, David, why is Minnesota not talking about the hydrogen?
Well, Jane, first of all, thank you once again for letting us come to your table, so to speak, and bring our wonderful German guests to this table and to Rochester and the surrounding area. But Minnesota, really, frankly, is. We're right in there in terms of our interest in hydrogen. The people over at the University of Minnesota Morris have been very active for a number of years. We're part now of what we call a hydrogen hub that's been designated by the U.S. Department of Energy for the state of Minnesota, Wisconsin, North and South Dakota, and Montana. There's been $925 million that have been pumped into that hub for research and development purposes in terms of advancing hydrogen within that group of states. And we've got the University of Minnesota, which certainly is a headliner in terms of research and development into hydrogen. So, and we have all the wonderful attributes here with respect to agriculture and the ability to produce hydrogen, given our wind and solar systems and so on and so forth. And I would just say with the Minnesota ingenuity, we can't forget the computer was invented here. The biomedical device industry is emanated out of Minnesota. Why can't the hydrogen industry? And the answer is it clearly can, and it will.
Okay, that explains why we're interested. Now, what are our next steps?
Well, one of the things that we need to do is we need to make the transition real and palpable, and that involves also in having cities and counties move forward on the energy transition. So, you know, the state of Minnesota has a goal by 2030, 100% renewable electricity, and for that everybody needs to pitch in and help the state get there. We also have Paris Climate Accord agreements, so we have some goals to meet by 2050. It all boils down to the local level. At the university, we often like to say we need to scale things up. You know, and in this case, with the distributed energy revolution, we probably need to scale things down and bring things to the local level. That involves capacity, people who know what they are doing at the local level. But we have 953 cities across Minnesota. Everybody needs to do something, but most cities don't have the staff. They don't have the technical staff. And this is where the University of Applied Sciences, FH Münster, comes in, because they help us tap expertise in Germany that is being produced in Germany, young people who come here and they help as technical interns move things forward at the local level. And maybe, Christoph, you can share what some of the interns that are coming in April for 5 months are going to be working on. You know, and we have one right here in Rochester.
And you mentioned, is hydrogen a part of the solution, or is it the solution? Okay, why the hesitation?
Yeah, because if you produce hydrogen, it is depending on the cost of electricity, because this is the basis for splitting off the water into hydrogen and oxygen. And the price must be low. Then it makes a lot of sense to produce hydrogen. And having that hydrogen, for example, our colleagues and partners in Morris at the West Central Research and Outreach Center, they are working in producing green hydrogen. That means the energy for the production is coming from wind turbines in this case, and they produce ammonia, which is consisted out of the hydrogen and the nitrogen from the air. This is NH3, and this ammonia is used for fertilizers or as fertilizer since decades. So this is well known in this area here in this corn belt. And to shift that around from, let's say, ammonia from fossil fuels to ammonia from green fuels or green energy makes a lot of sense. And this is one step. We are also discussing worldwide at the moment how could we transport the hydrogen, which could be exported from countries where it is can produce very cheap. And ammonia, the transformation from hydrogen into ammonia would make a lot of sense because it is 100 times cheaper to transport ammonia instead of transporting hydrogen.
Okay.
And there is another thing, and our colleagues at the University of Minnesota at the West Central Research and Outreach Center, they are also working on using ammonia as a fuel because it has this NH3, that means there is a lot of hydrogen in there, and it could be used to burn in an engine as fuel. So this would be a green fuel then, and that is very interesting to see how that is going on and how we can go on that way to use this green ammonia for several purposes.
Okay. Ammonia. Is that the cleaning fluid? Ammonia is a cleaner?
If it is produced from renewable energy, yes.
Okay. Good. You have a comment.
No, it's clean because when it's made from renewable energy and the hydrogen is coming from the renewable energy, it's a green ammonia.
Okay.
So the opportunity that we have here in Minnesota, and where the West Central Research and Outreach Center of the University of Minnesota has been so prominent, is to decarbonize agriculture. So to make agriculture way greener by not necessarily focusing on the farming equipment, but by focusing on the fertilizer. And if we could replace the regular fertilizer with green fertilizer, that would really change the entire game across the upper Midwest. Agriculture could become way cleaner, produce way less CO2 emissions than it does right now. And we have all of the infrastructure in place already. And this is, I think, why the U.S. Department of Energy decided to award a hydrogen hub to this consortium of partners that involves also Minnesota, because our contribution, the Minnesota contribution, would be very much about green ammonia replacing fossil-based ammonia fertilizer with green-based ammonia.
Okay. How widely used is that in the United States?
It's huge. It's very widely used. So, for example, we have a whole network of pipelines in Minnesota that transport fossil fuel ammonia to farmers so that they can put the fertilizer on their farms. And so we already have infrastructure that, interestingly enough, is not available in Germany. So the Germans don't have this grid of pipelines. And maybe, Christoph, you can talk about what the Germans are doing instead.
Well, this is done by the Haber-Bosch process, but the use of ammonia as a fertilizer in this liquid form is not known in Germany. Nobody uses this. We have this mineral fertilizer also done by the Haber-Bosch process, bringing together the nitrogen and the hydrogen, but this is different. And that is the reason why this is a big advantage for US, especially for Minnesota, because these technology of using ammonia is well known. All the farmers are using that, and I think this is a good basis. If Minnesota is able to produce these green ammonia, this could be a fantastic start for a greener future, not only for Minnesota, but also for the whole region.
Okay. And what about the water supply? Do we have enough water to make this?
This is a very good question. And I had a presentation with a delegation from Thailand, and that was also their first question. Will we have enough water? We need 9 liters of water per kilogram hydrogen to produce. And in areas where we do not have much water, we are thinking about using the treated wastewater from the communal wastewater treatment plant. And we have a project on that to treat the treated wastewater, make it a source for the production of hydrogen. And if we do so, that means we have enough water anywhere where a wastewater treatment plant is already located and in operation.
Wow. So you would use treated wastewater to create the water for the hydrogen?
In case it is necessary. If we have not enough water in an area, if it is too dry, for example, because we have always wastewater. Where we have people, we have wastewater, and then this wastewater could be used as source for the production of hydrogen.
Well, now, has Olmsted County thought about that when they're looking at their new plant of recycling?
Well, it's certainly, it's certainly a conversational thing from the standpoint of whether or not, on a practical basis, we've stepped forward and into that. No, not yet. But I think we have to just understand this is a journey that we're on, and this journey may be 100 years old, long in terms of getting there, so to speak. But energy and sustainability and how we take care of this earth is, I think we're at a point in our history where it's never been more important. How we make our energy, how we sustain our earth. You can simply, there's not enough fossil fuels in our earth to carry us on forever. They're not infinite. Society, our society has a pretty good way about using them up, and they're not forever, and they're frankly within decades, honestly. And so as we think about that, we've got to think about how do we do this smarter? How do we ensure for future generations that they have an earth to live on? And so things like certainly hydrogen certainly play into it, and a lot of other things do as well. But it's part of a menu and part of a journey, and that's and we shouldn't get all excited because we don't know all the answers today, because we simply don't. And there will be mistakes, but to not act is the biggest mistake we could make.
How about the pipelines?
Well, certainly we have natural gas pipelines, and as we make hydrogen, and we will, we did pass during my time in the Senate a Renewable Gas Innovation Act, which is basically talking about hydrogen. And so how do we make this hydrogen and put it into our natural gas lines to either in totality eventually, I don't think we'd ever have totality, but at least mix the hydrogen into the natural gas already there, and begin to, as you would with a carburetor, make that adjustment, and subsequently either with renewable biogas or maybe complement it with hydrogen. How do we make that gas that's different than what we put in there now, and that's fossil fuel derived natural gas, which isn't the future of our world.
And we have recently been put on notice by the feds that we're worried about the water supply, and the Great Lakes are not the solution. What does this change that?
I don't think so, but it just, again, part of the bigger challenges of society in terms of, again, I will say it, just taking care of the earth we live on, and water is just sacred to our existence, and we need clean water. And by the way, our state water with a Clean Water Legacy Act and that 3/8 of 1% sales tax on everything we buy, we do more in Minnesota to take care of our water. I know this, than any other state in the union, and we'll continue to do that because it's that important.
Okay, now, what are the next steps for Minnesota?
Well, the next steps for Minnesota is, for example, the hydrogen hub, to see what can be done with hydrogen concerning green steel, green fertilizer, green cement. How could we decarbonize the effluents, let's say, from bioethanol plants, and what can be done with hydrogen to create new products, for example, methane or methanol or urea and other products, and also to find an answer to the question, how much sense does it make to store the carbon dioxide as carbon capture storage, or makes it more sense to have that carbon capture utilization for other products? So these are the next steps, and these are the very interesting questions to answer.
Okay, now, the University of Minnesota is looking for answers to these questions?
Yes, we are, and one of the sets of answers we've already supplied in doing the research on renewable ammonia, fertilizer, and greening agriculture. Agriculture is such a big portion of Minnesota's economy. If we could show as a state that we can do agriculture so much greener, that would be amazing. And we are looking at how different solutions can tie together to achieve the goal of, across the board, decarbonizing our economy. There's a lot of exciting research being done right now.
And what questions do you have?
I think it's very exciting time that we live in right now, because there could so much be done, and in more practical way to install more renewable energies. There's so much space, so far as I know, in Minnesota, much more space than we have in Germany for solar installations or wind turbines. And that could be one piece of a puzzle that fits all together.
Okay. At the University of Minnesota, how many people are working on this?
It's different. It's hard to give a number, because what we need solutions that go all the way from figuring out engines and engine technology to data science and figuring out programs that run with AI. So we need lots of different people in all kinds of different disciplines to work together in order to create efficiencies and create solutions that are very flexible and that deliver on our quest to use things better and not use fossil fuels to the degree that we've been accustomed to using those fossil fuels. Because as Commissioner Sendrum said, we're using things up as if we had an unlimited supply. And even with the fracking boom, we don't have natural gas to last forever.
Can I just interject, Jane, because I was at a Soil and Water Conservation District meeting last week, and I'll kind of just bring things home, but and it has to do with the university, but a lot of other things as well, and how agriculture is changing, and the idea of no-till and cover crops, and a farmer that gave a presentation from down in the Lewiston area presented it, and because he's using cover crops and no-till, he's reduced his fuel consumption by 45%. Wow. And his crops are just as good, his outputs are just as good, and in fact, he will say assuredly that his soil health is the best it's ever been, and so the University of Minnesota and other people that are doing work on this, just how we farm, and is just very, very important. And farmers are changing. You could see in that room, and there were, I think, 122 in attendance. You could see a lot of focus on people thinking about, well, maybe I should do this too. And so we're in a stage of transition. It's pretty exciting.
Okay, among our viewers, if they have questions, or if there are chemists who would really like to get this in their teeth, who do they call?
Locally, they can call me, and I'm not saying I've had the answers, but I'll get them or the right people. Because there are the right people that have the right answers, there's no question about it.
Okay, good.
And Dave sent them, by the way.
Because
I'm in the phone book.
I mean, we have asked some of the obvious questions, but you have good answers. Okay, so the guests from Germany are here to convince us that we should look at this seriously and pursue it both through agriculture and also through the purity of water and peroxide, if I may remember H2O2.
We are not here to convince anybody. We are here being partners and help each other to find solutions for these questions which we have.
Okay, and hopefully we'll answer that question, whether it's the solution or a solution, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Oh, thank you for enlightening us about hydrogen, and we welcome you back in a year. And Christoph, Sabina, Elmar, Birking, and David Sendrum. All right, thank you all for, and we'll be back. And thank you for your interest in this topic of energy. And it's on all of our minds and in every news story we read. And we'll be back next week, same time, same channel. Have a very good week and a very good night.